And welcome to Goal Chat Live. I am so thrilled you are all here with us. If you don't know me, I'm Deborah Eckerling. I'm the author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals, and founder of the Deb Method. And this is Goal Chat Live. So every Sunday night, I lead the Goal Chat Twitter chat. And then once a month, I bring together friends from different parts of my life so we could have a nice chat. Now, Leslie, who's living in from Scotland, is having some technical difficulties. So I'm going to introduce the first couple guests, and hopefully by the time it's Leslie's turn, we will be able to grab her in here. So I'm excited because it's April. It's National Poetry Month. It's National Humor Month. It's Broadcast Live Video Month, Video a Day Month. Oh, Leslie's here. Excellent. I talked enough that we got all four of us here. Leslie, I had to go live because it was going to cut off the broadcast. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you all, and then you can introduce yourselves better. And then we're going to talk about storytelling. So what was I saying? Oh, yes. So I'm very excited because it's National Poetry Month. It is National Humor Month. It's Broadcast a Video a Day Month. It's a whole bunch of months. So I figured storytelling would be a great common theme to bring everything together. So I have brought, per usual, three people from very different parts of my life to talk. And I think we're going to start with Jennifer. So I know Jennifer because she joins Goal Chat on the live on Sunday nights most weeks. And the other thing about Jennifer is you created podcast posting month, which is October, but you're all like into Clubhouse, audio, and everything multimedia. So why don't you introduce yourself, because you do too many things. I mean, you do just the right amount. And I'm thrilled you could join us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with these ladies. I know we're all going to learn a lot about storytelling. My name is Jennifer Navarette. I heard about podcasting in 2005. And when I heard about it, I was like, you mean I can record something, put it up on the web, and no one can stop me? And I was like, sign me up. And I have been involved in the podcasting space since. Obviously, social media, video, those things have come along. It has turned into something that I do for my career now. The thing that Deborah was referencing was National Podcast Post Month, which is very much like NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writers Month. In the case of National Novel Writers Month, it's 50,000 words in 30 days. Well, for NaPodPoMo, it's 30 podcasts in 30 days. And it's a real challenge. But in 2020, we celebrated our 13th year. And when we circle back around to November this year, it'll be year 14. And it's a whole lot of fun to kind of get people together to gain their confidence in podcasting, because a lot of people have this barrier to the tech barrier to entry. And so I like to think of challenges as a fail fast, get good opportunity.
Excellent. And we're talking storytelling. So of course I thought of you, and I'm thrilled to have you here. So I'm going to swap you with Tanya. Wait, there's your link. This is what happens when we do everything, because that is what we do. So we're going to swap over to Tanya. And Tanya is a poet, and she is like my newest friend, which Leslie's going to laugh because I've only known her for like a month, and I have a newer friend than her. And we met because Tanya is a member of Women's National Book Association, LA chapter, of which I'm vice president. And you're part of an event our president, Diana, is putting together next month. And she mentioned Tanya, and I'm like, it's poetry month. I need an awesome poet. Diana said Tanya is an awesome poet. So please introduce yourself and share anything else you think people need to know.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. I am Tanya, and then actually my Korean name is Hyunhae. I am immigrant from Korea, 1982. And at the time, I didn't speak any English. Can you believe it?
No.
I didn't speak any English. And then, so it's just interesting. I'm writing about the background about that. And whoa, like just thinking about it, like just like not giving up and then pursuing what you wanted to do is very important, even though it takes time. And then Jennifer, I'm just like so envy you, like technique. Oh my goodness, I broke everything, but like, It gives me a lot of inspiration that like I wanted to go on. And so I actually published the book like last year before pandemic. And so I was gonna do a lot of reading and everything, but like it just got canceled. So what I did, this is like a thank you there, because last year during National Poetry Month, instead of like me, I cannot go any like reading and stuff. So what I made is like a YouTube for poetry months, and then I committed it every day that I'm gonna do 30 days, not knowing how to even edit it, and but I did it. So I'm so happy.
Good for you.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I'm thrilled you could be here. I'm going to swap you out with Leslie. I'm so glad you found us. It's very late where you are, and I would have felt terrible if you stayed up this late and didn't join us. So, and Leslie I met because we're both members of a Canadian networking group, and of course, neither one of us was in Canada. And we had a wonderful conversation, and I cannot do justice to introducing you. So will you please introduce yourself and explain why I think you're amazing and need to be here with us today?
Wow. Well, excuse me, but my English is not so good either because I'm Scottish. But there you go. That's something else to play with. I'm a shamanic practitioner and storyteller, among other things. And I enjoy stories. And my favorite thing to ask people is, whose talk are you walking? Is it yours? And mainly I use this as a way to get people to tell me their story so that we can understand where the cloth of their limitations is being clipped and cut and sewn up.
Wow.
And I think it's very important that people understand that storytelling is what we do all the time, every day. And we tell it to ourselves every time we're telling it to someone else. And so that kind of embeds everything that we say. You know, it embeds the identity, it embeds the attachments, it embeds the lies.
Man,
So
that's powerful.
Story is very, very important in life.
It's the heart of everything. And the other reason why I thought it was really important to do this topic is because we keep rewriting our stories. So much has been changing in the last, like, ridiculous. And some of the stories are not so good. And some of the stories that have come out of this, you know, things people have created, shared with the world in the last year is incredible. But we also have the power of our story. So, Leslie, can you share quickly your journey to how you got where you are and what you do?
Oh, crikey, quickly. So, slightly weird, embraced it as a child. Then things started happening. I became a veterinary nurse and I traveled to Monaco and back again. But all the time there was this thing beside me that was all about listening to stories and enjoying fairy tales for a long, long time. After a couple of spontaneous initiations, I became a shamanic practitioner. And basically that has overtaken the veterinary work because Spirit sent me a 6-stone Rottweiler at 2:00 in the morning to tell me, no, Leslie, this is not for you anymore. We want you to do this. And you're not listening. So now you listen. And so I listened because it was very painful not to. And basically I started to understand the power of story, and I use fairy tales particularly because fairy tales for me are shamanic journeys. They are initiatory journeys. And basically it's all about, again, how we work our story. And I'm always learning what my story is. And I'm going with the flow as much as I can now because I don't want any more Rottweilers.
Well, we are always rewriting, and I think paying attention to the messages we get is, I think, key to figuring out your path. So, Tanya,
Yes.
The poetry, has it just always been something in your soul, or did you come to it through?
It was. I think because it's just like so refreshed because I've been writing about how I start writing, and I came from Korea, right? And then in school we have to turn in our diaries as a homework, so they check your diary, and
Do they
so
read? If they read them too?
yes, and
Oh, wow.
so you cannot put
Right.
your true stories in your diary, right? So it's too much work for me because I have to keep it for one for myself, and then I turn it in for school homework. And there is, and then as in Korea, the women especially, I mean even men too, like we're just like really not sharing emotions, like you suppress the emotions, and then we hear like a lot of stories around, but like not really talk about the, what is that story makes me feel, how we wanted to change, but like it's rather just like it is the way to go, and then just like follow instead of like express the feeling, express like
Mm.
your own ideas, and you just like receive the like how the women life should be, and then at school you learn how to be obey, and then also not express your true feelings, and so that I have to be right on my paper. And there's some feelings that I wanted to express, but like when you express your true feelings, then you get punished, right? And then you're not
Mm.
supposed to express their feelings. And Leslie was like a shamanic like stories, and this is like really interesting stories because we have so many shamans in our culture, but it changed. So a lot of people who was like from Buddhism changed to Christianity, but yeah, they're still believing in shamans, and then like a lot of fortune tellings, and then they wanted to make the also like interesting thing is that like they believe in fate, a lot of like a fate. So you're born in that day, the time, and then that's the your fate is gonna be.
Hmm.
So you cannot change it, the fate, like it's something bad luck, then they will say like because that's your fate. So
So what?
it's
So what do you think?
oh I don't, I mean I think like for a while I believed it, I think in a way, but um and just like Leslie say that like the stories are changing, and then I think more empowered women is that you who's making your story,
Hmm.
who's making rewriting your story, redirecting your story where you want to go. And today like I actually had like a mantra, like a reading that like surround the people around me, they don't have to change, but it's you have to change to make your own story. I
Hmm.
think that is,
I,
and
I am I am all about that. And if anybody asks me, why I wrote my book, it was
yeah.
because to help people embrace change. We can have the life we want, but we have to choose it and make a path that's suitable for us. And then we have the path, or that we think we come up with the motto and our mission in life, and it might take us through different incarnations. But when we know what we love, what we're all about, and that's the guiding force, we can create the life we want.
Hmm.
I just want to like step in. That's like it's just like coming from another culture and live in this culture, and you see how women change their lives, but then as a girl and growing up, and then study, and then how role of the women should be, is very hard to break it through. So interestingly, like I write about a lot of women's issue through the poetry, and through like I was writing, I find out about comfort women as well too, that which I didn't aware, but comfort women are, you know, sexual slavery during World War II, and they're very horrible experience, and a lot of people this is like a picture of the comfort women that the book was like just published before pandemic. And I think in a way, I don't know how Leslie will see it, but like I'm almost like a channeling and then talking their stories, because it's just like amazing that this happened, and then they were silent. On 45 years, they're silent. They didn't even speak out their comfort women. They didn't share their experience. It's not just one woman. Most of the women, they don't even share. And for the first time, Haksun Kim came out and then announced, 1991, 46 years later, she came out to say, I was comfort woman. 46 years.
Yeah, I think there's a. Sorry, Deborah.
Please.
I think that there's a throughout this paradigm shift that we're in at the moment, and we are in a very big paradigm shift. If only we would actually understand that that's the case and stop trying to get back to normal, because there is no normal, and basically you can't go backwards, you have to go forwards. But within this space, there is an energy and there's an echo of a voice that is coming through, and it's coming through from all of those whose voices have been silenced for so long.
Yes,
we're finding now that we are actually being polarized, in that there are those who are being in fear and those who are actually finding their voice now and being able to say, hold on a minute, I have a story. I have a right to tell my story, and you have a right to listen.
Jennifer, you've been quiet. Do you want to jump in on this?
Well, the thing I love about the platforms that exist now, very much like StreamYard, very much like Twitter, podcasting, Clubhouse, any tool, right? It's a tool. We use it as we need, but it allows the folks that in the past would have been silent because they didn't have a platform to share those things. Now all of us have it. I mean, if you've got one of these, you've got a production studio in your pocket. So the fact that it enables storytelling, I think, is one of the most powerful things that has happened over these years. And that's probably why we're going through what we're going through, because more people have an opportunity to voice their thoughts, their fears, experiences, and then other people who have had similar situations or people who have empathy for that can then, rise up together, because the way that we can break a lot of those cycles that are negative cycles in not just our own family life, but in culture is through awareness. And how do we get awareness? Through storytelling.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Jennifer, because I have a very hyper feminist friend who was coming to storytelling night with us at one point, and the story that night was Cinderella, and she was on her horse and she was there, and she was like, I don't like this story is bad, it suppresses women, it's not good. And I said, well, okay, you're going to get a chance, because the way we do it, we take them inside the story. So she came out and she said, I said, did you have a word with her? I did. And how did you get on with that? Did you convert her? She said, I didn't have to. She's already there. She was working within the confines of the story that was told. But of course, the story that was told that I heard wasn't all the story that was there. Because in Victorian times, they wrapped it up in a nice little pink ribbon and said, this is where it ends and it's happily ever after. But of course, this is actually the start of the story. If you want to really go into where the power comes in, you'll want to listen to the grim stories. You'll want to go grim, because they actually start at happily ever after. As soon as the Prince Charming comes in and does his bit, And then the girl says, oh, hang on a minute, there's more to this than meets your eye. And guess what, honey? You're in for a bumpy ride. So, you know, it's the fact that in a culture, even in Western culture, Tanya, there are suppressive techniques for what women should be deemed to be doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times through anthropology in Victorian times was a really, really massive subject. But because most, if not all, of the anthropologists were male, many of them were attached to the church because that was allowed them to go that way, and the rest of them all had money. So they were bored, so they decided to go off and find out what was going on in other lands. But most of the time it was to re-educate those who were there, shall we say. I love that term, re-educate. Covers a multitude of sins. But also we're only discovering now that what they discovered was that there were shamanka in these places. There were female shamans, more often than not, either working alongside the male shamanic people or as the only shaman of the people. And that was suppressed knowledge-wise because they decided that that couldn't be right because no woman could have that kind of place in life because they were subjective. It was all about what they expected to happen and how they wanted to turn the world into their idea of what would be right. And so, even although in very, very early on in the Roman times, when Boudica was about and the Iceni were led by women, and this country here, the UK, was a matriarchal society until the Romans came, we kind of didn't get taught that in school. So the stories get edited all the time.
It's really funny. So we're doing our April theme, the end of March, which is Women History Month, and I'm kind of feeling like both of the themes are colliding today.
We are, yeah.
Which is good. And so what advice would you have for someone who needs to tell their story but can't quite get it out or has been told that their story doesn't matter? Do you have any thoughts or words of wisdom or encouragement? Because I'm all about the goals, but because and I'll let you think because I want to go back to what Tanya was saying at the beginning of talking. The journaling and how you had to keep two is just baffling. Not baffling, it makes complete sense. But one of the things that I taught, because I love journaling, it's one of my absolute favorite recommendations. So if I were answering the question that I just asked, I'd say start with journaling and tell the story that you want or figure out the life you want on paper. And then when you say it to yourself, that'll give you practice to getting it out in the world. But when I was growing up, they would check the journals, but they would read the journals. But that's what really inspired my love of journaling.
I want to jump in here real quick. So journaling is great if you're someone who likes to write. And of course, we all know that as children, we learn differently and it doesn't change when we grow up, right? And that's why one of the nice things about this modern day is that if you learn by listening, there's audiobooks, there's podcasts, there's all number of things. If you learn by watching, there's YouTube, there's any number of videos. If you learn by reading, there's blog posts, there's all kinds of stuff. So I would say start with what you're comfortable with. Because if you thought, oh, I have to write and I don't really like writing, or I have to start a podcast or I have to do audio and I don't really like audio, or I have to be on video, I would say start with what is comfortable for you, because sharing your story, especially if it's a challenging story, is difficult. So why make the medium that you're going to use a challenge? Start with something that you're really comfortable with, whatever it is. As I mentioned before, if all you do is just talk and do the voice memo on your phone, that's the beginning. Go to Otter, have it transcribed, then maybe make a blog post out of that, or use it to kind of ponder those things. I always tell folks, start with what you have, start with what you're comfortable with, start small. Launch soft. A lot of times people create content, they think, oh, I've got to have this big, huge, hard launch, amazing. And it's like, What's wrong with a soft launch? What's wrong with starting slow? So I would say ease into it with the tools that you have, with what platform you're comfortable with, and just the key though, get started.
The key to everything
Yeah.
is to get started.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
And I have an experience because I relate to a lot of like a first generation who came from immigrants, older generation, and I had happened to have a workshop with them on told stories actually at the senior center, and it was mixed races, and then also the artist Maureen, she's the artist, and then I am a poet, so we came together, and then we did a workshop for the seniors, and I had Korean grandmas there, the older generation, and I know because I know the culture, because they don't think their life is important, and then they don't have anything to say, and a lot of them like didn't go to school and stuff like that, so they don't have a train to writing, but like we're incorporate with the art, so then like we did the calligraphy as well, learn how to do art. And also the problem is like they think I never wrote, like how can I write a poetry? So here I comes, like we did the brainstorming, and then I say, okay, what is the home? What is, so then that's like a very benefit for me because I could speak both language. So then I say, 집을 그리세요, home, and then 홈이 어떻게 생각되세요? And then like there's, oh, the home, I could eat there, okay, so then with the brainstorming, where you could eat, and then in fact, one of the ladies, she loves to write a journal. I write my journal. That's like my most precious time. Okay, you write journal. So like we did the brainstorming, and what I did was that like their Korean language, and then I hear their story, right? So very close what they said, and I translate to English, and they said, "Whoa, really? This is what really I said it." And then the artist, what she did was with their drawing, we put their poem in both Korean English on their art. So it was just like fabulous. But a lot of times I think that women have this insecurity or less value their lives. So I have no story to tell. Also, another thing is that if there's a story, they don't want to share. They wanted to keep it secret because the sharing could be so, maybe could be burden to other member of a family, or that's why like it's very hesitate. As an Asian women, and then also Korean women, I will tell you, like we meet like a lot of times, they don't really share the deep in their hearts. Just like it's sad in a way. I could talk like a lot of like thing is a lot of people, but we wanted to keep it like surface so that we don't really need to know each other inside.
I mean, that I want to go back to something that you were talking about earlier. It is sad, but what I think is important to have conversations like this is how people are going to learn that it's okay to open up. It's okay to share because they're safe spaces. I love how you pulled art into the story, and the theme that I'm doing this month is storytelling. So we're going to do video and audio and the written word and imagery because it's all part of story. And I'm going to go over to Leslie to see what thoughts she has for people who need or want to share. What is a good first step for them?
I think basically there's a way to pick every lock. And very much it's a case of mindset. And when that mindset is set in stone, it's very difficult for people to lift that stone up and look under it and say, well, is it in there? Is it hiding in there? Is there a story in there that I can tell? Who would want to know my story? My story is just the same as anyone else's. Actually, it's not. We all have a unique story because we all have unique experiences and unique ways of experiencing life. So therefore, we all have our own unique superpowers. And that's something that only by allowing a song that's not sung has no power. A poem that's not spoken has no power. It's not written. If it's not there, if it's not birthed. A story is not just creating yourself. It's stepping into your power by saying, this is my story. It doesn't actually mean that that is my identity, all of it. It means that this is my start and this is how I mean to go on. So allowing people to see the story as a journey and allowing them to understand the power of first going within. Shamanically, we would teach them to journey to the drum and allow them, or guided visualization if they're not too keen on that, allow them to actually quietly go within themselves and understand the land that is there, the story that's inside them. And it's theirs to keep if they want to. It's their choice. That's part of the power. I can gift you part of my story. I can gift you all my story. But actually, there will always be a part that's not quite gifted because it hasn't been written yet. And that's the thing about it. I have people who say to me, oh, Leslie, my story, I'm just an ordinary person. There's nothing going on in my life. I'm just an ordinary person. Nobody wants my story. I go to the shops, I get up, I do this. And one of my friends said to me at one point, and I said, do you know what? You have amazing stories because you have stories that I will never know. You had children. You have amazing stories growing in front of you. You are able to mold those stories, to give them the idea that they have power, to actually teach them how to use their voices and tell their stories. I don't have that, not in that relationship. I don't regret that. It wasn't for me to have. I get to blether to everybody else and tell my story anywhere I want to. It's like, litter.
I think Leslie got so enthusiastic.
Right here, litter it there.
There we go.
You have is one thing you say.
That was really good.
So there you go. Wow. It may just be one thing that you say. It could be an off-chance remark, but that off-chance remark can go deep inside someone and can ricochet around for a long time, and then it will come out. And that's why you have to remember that every time you open your mouth, you're making a mark on someone else.
Well, that's
and
the
that
impact
mark
of storytelling, right?
Yeah, it can be good or it can be bad. But we're actually telling someone else's stories because we are passing tradition down. Tanya, you're talking about passing the tradition of a closed mouth and a closed heart. And basically it's a case of tradition is there because it's just the thing that's always been done. There are reasons for it.
I just wanted to say something, because I could speak for my culture because I grew up there. So actually among women, everybody knows like a Han, HAN. It's like a Han is like a bruise a heart. And all women carries it. And then they carry on generation to generation to pass on to the next generation their suffering heart. And then you have to carry it. And also in Asian, our culture, that when you marry, they're you become, that's the poem that I was gonna share you, that like Asian women, it's just a song. what is the song that they're teaching is like when you marry, you gotta be 3 years deaf, 3 years dumb, 3 years blind. Meaning you go and you say nothing, you don't see anything, you don't speak anything. So then that's how you live your life. And also
Hmm.
very interesting that I go back to the senior center. This one grandma, she was like start drawing. Whoa, beautiful picture. And then I said, "Did you draw before?" And then she said, "No." And then she started have the dementia, right? But so like I was sit there and then talking to her. Her story is just beautiful. And what was her story was she really, really wanted to go school, junior high school. But her mother said, "No, you stay home and taking care of your brother and sisters." And then, so while she was like talking to me, she's so clear. And then she said, but then my friends are going to school, but I have to go stream and then wash clothing and stuff. So when I see my friends coming to school, I hid it from the tree, behind the tree, because she feel shamed. And then she got married. So then I got married and then I didn't have time. So she was like telling her story and then beautiful picture. And we have all this story, but like we don't want it to share. Even my mother, I don't even know really the story. And then before she tell me all the story that she had a heart attack and she passed away, only thing that she told me was like just couple snapshot, was because Korea has a lot of, Korean War, all that kind of stuff. And then what she was telling me was she has older brother and then younger sister. So her mother, which grandma that I never seen her, but she was sick. So she put the boys' clothes when she was like 12, 13 years old, and then go to get the medicine. The reason why she did it, because they wanted to keep her brother is a boy, but he has to survive. So they don't send him away. But my mother is the one who has to, put like a boy's clothing and then go get the medicine. And woman's role, you have to have boy. I mean, it's changed, but still.
But it's those kinds of stories that make up the past and the future. You take the history and the change. Jennifer, you're nodding.
I mean, there's a lot of layers there because every culture has their thing when it relates to that. And I'll say the thing that you were talking about, Tanya, about that people have fate. I think about when you were saying that, I thought, well, what chapter in my book am I? I think about life as a book, and some chapters are action adventure, and some chapters are drama, and some chapters are sorrow, and all these things. And I thought, well, I've lived a lot of lives during my life. I was a girl. I got married. I had, kids, and my kids are, they're, 31 and 26. And, I was married for 25 years. I'm not married anymore. And so I've done a lot of things. So this life that I'm living right now, I want to say is maybe the 6th or 7th version of me. And this is the version that I'm discovering who I am. Me, not me as a daughter, not me as a wife, not me as a mom, not me as a career person, not me as going through the challenges that I've gone through, but me as in I'm kind of at the point in my story where I'm getting a sense of who I am and I'm making an impact, not just in my life, but in other people's lives, but it's all part of my journey. And I think, Leslie, you were talking about the journey. So that really resonated with me a lot. So I actually really just want to sit here and listen to the two of you.
I love what Leslie was saying too about the uniqueness. We're all unique. We all have our different pasts. We have our different presents. We have our different future. And you also when you're talking to most people, you have no idea what their story is, and
Yeah.
it's like the kernels. What is the when you run into cranky people, you never know exactly why they are cranky. You never know the past the person you are with has. So what can you do in that moment if someone is showing emotion, negative, whatever? You I have a point. I know I have a point. It's as the storytellers and the story hearers. No, that's not a word, but we'll pretend it is one. I think that especially the people in this conversation, we hear other people's stories a lot, and it's so interesting when you look at other lives and say, oh, or I do this. I look at pictures of people I went to high school with who stayed where I grew up, and think if I stayed there, would that have been my life? It's just very strange when you look at the path you've chosen, and I am completely blessed. I get to do things that I love, and I get to help people. I mean, what better life is there, right? But it's still really interesting when you see people who have similar paths and you look around. And I think the best thing we can do with people is to root for them, to get their stories out and share their truth and to help others.
It's interesting though, it's a case of, like you were saying, it's a case of what would have happened if I had stayed there? What would have happened if I hadn't chosen? And we come to crossroads in our lives all the time, but we don't actually notice them most of the time. It can be just sort of like, oh yeah, well, yeah, okay, I'll just go this way because that way's blocked for some reason, and I'm just going to go this way. But by going that way, you'll see something or someone, you'll overhear a conversation, and something will happen. And spirit or the universe or something will go, hello, this is for you. Open it up, listen, because you're going to go here now. And that is just the most amazing thing. I stopped fighting it after a while. It was just a case of, oh, that'll be for me then. And it's one of those things that you can never really go back because you were meant to be where you are.
Wow.
And there's an old curse from Haiti that I learned about a long time ago, and it's like, for your destiny, for your fate, is like the palm of your hand. And when we start our life, we start off down here, and we have all this area here to explore, and we can take any of these paths, any one of them throughout our lives. We can move one path to another, and then take a strand up here. Where do we end up? Always on the top of the fan. We're always going on the same road, but we just choose a different path to get there. So we have different lessons that we've learned and that we can impart to others. We have those of us who are actually going to be using our voices in some way creatively. And if we can find that way of expressing how it is, it could be knitting. It could be knitting a jumper for someone, or a sweater, I think you call it. And basically, we call it, I don't know why we call it a jumper, but we do. Maybe it's because sheep jump. I don't know. But it's one of those things that when we do find one way to express it, and it could be just singing in the shower. It could be, humming a little tune as you do the dishes of an evening. Or it could be sitting down meditating and allowing yourself to connect to them through the universe. And allowing yourself to release it that way, and to actually find that your story has meaning. If only for you, isn't that enough?
It should be.
Yeah, I think that, and then I just wanted to bring out the point something here, because if I stay in Korea and then only know Korean, I think I'm not the woman who sit here and then saying, I wrote the story of other women's lives. And what is a very interesting thing is, it was very hard for me to express my emotion in Korean. Yes, I think that is very interesting, even discovering myself that when I'm angry, I express my anger in English because I didn't learn, because it's like that's taboo. You have to be silent. You have to be suppressed. That's a good woman. You don't speak out. You don't really tell how you feel. So even when I was writing in poems in English and actually start express my feelings and reveal the stories, I felt guilty. I felt, even though I told you like the story, my father's confronting my father's mistress, the title. And when I was like writing that story, oh my goodness, even like the first line, after my dad died 10 years later, I phoned her. 10 years later, and then like in the poem, the first line, I could call him bastard in English. What I mean is, I still cannot call him bastard.
Go
I mean, I
you.
love him, but like, even though if it's like a bastard in like in your father is a bastard, but you never call your father bastard. So I said in English, what I say, not Korean. So then, like, I get split personality. When you ask me to talk Korean, I'd be very nice talking, but like, and even my own poem, there's the no trespassing, that I was very angry at my roommate. So I wrote it, very angry voice. But when I translated, it became very submissive. So I'm a closed door. You knock on my door before you come in. But when we translate it, 나는 닫혀있는 문입니다. 그대 내 문을 들어오기 전 문 두드려 주세요. Why? Because if I say same voice in Korean, they will say like, ah, that's not a poem. What an angry woman. That's what they say. So then when I change it to soft voice and then fit in the woman's role, oh, what a precious poem.
I think you're amazing. That is just absolutely remarkable. I love that you found it is in another language and that are both sides of yourself. That's in the fact that you know that and can express it so well. I mean, ooh, good, go you. I was asking before we went live what Tanya's favorite poem was for the submission she was doing to bring everybody up to date. And she said, when I confronted my father's mistress. And I said, then lead with that one. Of what you are most passionate about is what's going to drive you to the goal that you want.
Yeah, it'll resonate with the people. You know, you've got a spice and a flavor, and people that are going to be attracted to that spice and flavor are going to know exactly what you're talking about, because your story is their story too. And they'll actually, it's just going to be impactful and resonate with them. So I agree with Deb. I mean, lead with the one that's your favorite.
But can I tell you the funny stories? Because like, you know, I am among like the Korean community, right? And then when they read my poems, they think like it is just like a sweet Korean baby, right? And then they say like, oh my God, you're so different than like your writing. And then even though I wrote Comfort Women, right? And then like I talk about Comfort Women, and then I actually talking about the, you know, a lot of like, you know, hard women's life issues. So then I'm talking about point of their voice, and then they're going to say, especially first generation Korean men, like they go, Tanya, stop writing comfort women, stop writing that mad poems. They say to me, just write it precious, soft as a rock. That's one of my poems. They're kind of like beauty poems, okay? That's what, seriously, they talk to me in front of my face. Don't write those poems anymore.
I want to call out this wonderful comment from Sandy. I'm gonna mispronounce her last name, so I'm just not going to. Grand advice, very empowering, equality-minded. Thank you, Jennifer, Tanya, and Leslie. All unique superpowers, and you do all have wonderful, wonderful superpowers. We've been talking a while, but before we wrap up, I want 2 more things for me to do, because you've given me so much. Of course, I want more. Is from your perspectives, I would love a bonus goal. What someone listening can do today, tonight, tomorrow to get in touch to better tell their stories. And so we want to give them a little homework, and then think about what your final thought is that you want to leave people with. So Leslie, what advice, what is something someone can do that's really easy, simple to work to get their story out of themselves?
Sit in the morning with a blank piece of paper and a pen and just write the first thing that comes. It will set the tone, and you can actually start to make yourself understand that there's a mood there's a reason behind that mood, and if it's worries, if it's stress, get it out on the paper. And if it's stressful and it's something that's a bad memory, take it outside and burn it and allow it to go back.
I love, this really makes me think of what Tanya is saying. She's like, all these things that sound really nice in English or in Korean, and then in English they're like pow wham. And then we have Leslie, who and I started typing and I hit send before you pow whammed us at the end. But sit in the morning, write the first thing comes to you, and if it's bad, burn it.
Yeah.
If it's emotions,
Wow.
get it out of you. I think that is amazing. But it's
Wow.
really. It's just,
I just want you to remember to ask the question, whose talk am I walking? Is it mine, or is it someone else's? My grandfather's, my grandmother's, my mother's, my father's? Is it their expectations of what I should be, or what they think my duty should be? I have a duty to me. What's my duty today?
amazing and so true, because we're not just telling our stories, we're telling our stories from the past, but when we're true to the who we are and where we came from, that's where we get our power. Did I paraphrase you well enough?
Oh yeah. It's not about forgetting the past. It's not about dishonoring the past. It's about saying, yes, this is what you had to do. We are in a whole different world now. We are in a space where tradition can be honored. It doesn't have to be protected. It doesn't have to be continued the same way. We can walk the road of our tradition with a new tradition that we make ourselves, so that we're comfortable in the new shoes that we're walking in on this journey.
Wow. Leslie, that is just so beautiful.
It's good, really good. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it again.
So will I, because like, what did I say?
It is just
It's not
like
me. It's my.
hard.
Sorry, Tanya.
It's like being like trained, especially women. You put other people first, and then Leslie. You know what what happens when you try to put yourself first? You feel you're selfish, and then even though it's not just you, your society say, "Oh my goodness, you're so selfish. You put yourself first." You're the
Well, actually, Tanya, celebrate the selfishness, because the one thing they tell you on an airplane is don't give the mask to anybody else. You have to take it first, or you'll be useless to anyone else. Because you'll be dead.
I still have a hard time if my kids next, and then I think I'm gonna put mine.
I know. People say to me at one point, because of the spiritual thing, oh, yeah. you're very up there with the anger thing today. You're very kind of forceful. I'm like, this is what I love about shamanism. We get angry, we get over it. We get happy, we know it's not going to last because this is life. We're human. We have emotions for a reason. They're there. A whole plethora of emotions are there for us to play with. And we can, as long as we use them properly, they're not going to get a hold of us. We are not the tiger by the tail. We are the tail of the tiger. And so basically, it's a case of enjoy it. Don't go bananas with it. You know, if you want to have a wallow in your depression and your anxiety, and you say, yeah, why am I anxious? Why am I like this? Why am I wired? How would it be to just let it go? What is it that's holding you there? Why are you holding this tail? Why are you holding on to this? Let it go. It wants to get away. That's why it's coming out. It wants to leave you. And basically, what I would say to people is find your sovereign self. Step inside to that power because it's within each of us. Male, female, however you present, it's there. That energy that's inside that we were born with, that is the star part of us, that is the plug to jack into the universe. It's there. And when I say that I forget what I'm saying, it's because Leslie goes to the back of the bus and has a sit down and a little read with her feet up, while the sovereign self shaman person comes forward and says, this is how it is. And that's how it works.
I think yes, ladies, Jennifer and Tanya, you get to talk more too. I apologize, you have to follow that. But it's storytelling, all about know thyself, step into who you are, and offer the who you are to the world.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and say to add to what's been said already, and you know, like anything else, right? For those of you that are watching or listening, you're going to take stuff that applies to you right now, but I also suggest that you come back 2 weeks from now, a month from now, and re-watch or re-listen because something else is going to speak to you, right? This is these are living words, right? And it meets you where you're at. I will say the first thing that you should do in storytelling is give yourself permission. Because as we've heard here, a lot of times we as women feel we don't have permission because we have to put everyone else first. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's seasons in life for that. But when you get to a season in life where that's not as much a priority, much like where I am now, guess what? You don't have to still do the thing you've always done just because you've always done it. You're in a different season in your life. Embrace that season. Kind of discover what it is because it's a new season. You've never been here before. And as Leslie said, we don't go backwards, we go forward. So what we're going forward to is fresh and new. But how do we know what that is? Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Play with it. Be childlike with it. Discover it. And if there's things that you discover, you're like, ooh, I don't like that. Well, leave them behind. Go somewhere else and see what else it is. But give yourself permission, I think would be the key. And then circling back around to the conversation, what Deb just said, do you, like whatever be, you were built and created for a purpose, and you have these natural innate abilities and this natural curiosities and these gifts. Be that person. You don't know what it is, discover what it is, and then do that thing that brings you joy, that is so easy for you that it doesn't take any effort because it's natural. It's something that's inside of you that comes out. You have that because you're a gift to someone else, and do that for yourself. So do you, and have fun because it's a journey and it's an adventure, and it's not for the faint-hearted. But what else would we be doing?
And I love that you said have fun, because I think that piece, that joy piece, it's so important.
Yes. That's very interesting, Jennifer. You brought the joy because I was like reading, like, you know, I'm giving review for like these books, like not published yet, and then I have to give like my opinion. I feel so important. And it was like about, like, I'm reading this, that's exactly what I said to the book. I said, it's missing joy in this book. And who wants, feels very forced it, and then even the like fit in the character in the box. And I just wanted to go on because, like, the conversation is just like amazing. It's so inspired. I just felt so joyful, and then listening to Leslie, Jennifer, and that, I mean, just like amazing. And actually, Leslie, what I do is like every morning, I don't know how many years. The first thing that I do in the morning is I'm right. Like when I get up, and then first thing that I do is writing. So like at least 15, 20 minutes. Like, and then just like what you say, and then I try to remember like what was in the dream, and I just like write the dream or like things to do. And then if I actually there's some part that I have to write, I write and then I burn it too, because you don't want to leave the something behind.
If you don't want to write, I actually have a picture of a cougar, a puma, on the wall in front of my bed, and she's got her big claws into this big bit of wood, and the affirmation on it says, "Today will be a good day because I said so." And that just tickles me. That just tickled me. I thought, you are definitely at the bottom of my bed. First thing I look at in the morning. Today will be a good day because I said so.
I need that.
As a former theatre nurse, I can tell you that is the best way to do it.
Okay, today will be a good day because I said so.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
setting the tone, you know.
Yeah.
So for me to like people who's like, oh, I don't want to write, like I don't know where to start. I want to give you like a little tips, because actually like during this season that we had I taught like high school students poetry through Zoom. And it's like they could be off the camera so they don't have to speak. So I said, somebody talk to me, in the Zoom. And out of their word, they're send it to me the poem, and then I, like, inspire with their word. So like I got like a really beautiful poem they called "Do You Still Believe in Spring?" And then I wrote both Korean and English, but I used their words. So what I gave them the word, I said use the five senses. So like I give them like a word, like just like you guys are mood, then I will say, okay, right, what do you see? Just like write down what do you see around you, five things. What do you smell? Five things. What do you hear? Five things. And then the sense, like you start writing, and then now you use the word, start with I remember. So what do you remember? What did that smell? That senses, and then they send me these beautiful poems, amazing poems. And so if you think, and then another really fun practice is just like if you don't know how to do it, then just like write down 3 words. Just go Dap, Jennifer, Leslie, and then go another 3 things. Table, coffee, wine. And then it just like 3 words keep going. And then like you just could develop. So I think it's just like an opening, like it's almost like a broken open. So like it's just like hard to open your heart or like your hand. But when you start doing it, then you could start writing, and then that leads to me the story. I just wanted to say one last thing, because it was just like very interesting. I didn't share much yet, but like I bought the lamp glass, right? The lamp is a glass, and then I drop it, and then it broke. The glasses broke, and somehow I couldn't touch it. I couldn't touch the glass. So I let it stay on the corner where it was broken. I mean, I don't know if this is like really I'm telling the truth. So hopefully somebody will, I don't know if I should tell, but like, I just like, I mean, I think 3 or 4 days, just like I couldn't pick up the pieces. It was broken in the corner. And then actually that led to me that when my father was like domestic violence when I was a kid, that our sliding glass door was broken. And then I was totally blocked out. I didn't want to go there. I think that was like the most fearful day of my life. And then I never want to visit. And then mechanism is that like how loving my parents are. I mean, they're really loving people, but they fought, and that moment when I was 7 years old, that is the most hardest part that I was witness as a person, and I was totally blocked. And it didn't came out like not long ago, just like a month and a half ago. I dropped it, and then I just don't know what to do. But it leads me to that back memory.
Wow.
It's a key. You unlocked the memory with that action. It's a memory of a trauma. So it's actually got egress now. It's got a way to come out, and you can actually look at it like you would look at that broken glass in the corner of your room and just see that it's broken glass. It has no emotion. It has no meaning. It has no intent. It's just there. And that's what the memory is. It has no emotion. It has no intent. It's just there. You are here now. You are the woman that you are. And that was part of your story. And it possibly made you stronger than broken glass.
Leslie, you are something else. I'm going to go back and watch this and listen, because so many gold nuggets that have meaning for me. And
meaning for me, yeah.
I so appreciate Deb for putting us all together, because for me, listening to your stories has really touched me, and I need some time to process because there's a lot going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
When I put these groups together, I never know what's going to happen. And while I'm living the experience like I'm doing right now, I'm like, I couldn't have programmed this. I love, that's why I love bringing people together so much. This has just been ridiculously amazing, powerful conversation. And I thank you all for being here. And we even had, I have to pull this up. Sandy writes, I'm getting ready to teach my annual class, Cultivating Voice. I'm hoping I can share the video with the co-learners in this class. Absolutely. The recap of this conversation will be up on my blog tomorrow, so you can look for the recap for this and all the previous Gold Chat Lives, debmethod.com/blog. And Sandy wrote, okay, we'll put this up again. Oh my gosh, so incredibly moving.
That was the word I was thinking, alchemy. Deb, you're an alchemist.
Yes.
Okay. I'll take it.
Thank you, Sandy.
I'll take the compliment.
Thank you, Sandy.
We're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Sandy's like a cultural voice, cultivating voice. The poetry on live is just amazing. I'm gonna take you guys, and then it's just like amazing that she did it. Yeah, she's doing it.
You've all been incredibly wonderful. We've talked for well over an hour. Not that I'm the least bit surprised. It is storytelling. And I have to thank you all so much for sharing your heart and your soul with me and with all of us today. Now, before we wrap, why don't we just go through where can people find you? Let's start with you, Jennifer.
Well, if you're here, you can look at ePodcaster on Twitter, and that'll take you everywhere else. Really, that's the reality. I'm ePodcaster on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse. I'm not difficult to find. So yeah, and please connect with me, because that's the way that we make the world smaller as we get connected.
Yes. Mm.
And where can people find you, Tanya?
Well, just like before I say to find me, like I feel so, I probably feel really, how do I say? Oh, I should have say what I said. I mean, like if somebody, I mean, why you tell those stories? I hear back of my mind. It's like, I gotta have a perfect face, right? No emotion. But here I am. So anyway, www.tanyakohong.com. That's where you could find me. And then Twitter, Instagram, and the same thing, same name. So that would be great. And then I love to connect with you guys. Jennifer, just like I didn't know. I didn't find you before. And Leslie too.
I know. This is great.
Okay. Leslie, where can people find you?
You can get me on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/shamanism Scotland. And my website is www.spiralheart.co.uk. And Twitter is spiralheart4, and so is Instagram. So I'm kind of out there.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's awesome, Leslie.
Also on LinkedIn, ladies, if you want to jump on LinkedIn.
Well, I will put you all on. I will put as much of this information as I can in the recap. Again, go to thedebmethod.com/blog, and I am at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you're watching, you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. And if you want to learn more about me, go to the Deb Method. Or if you want to learn more about my book, go to yourgoalguidebook.com, which will take you to the Amazon page for your goal guide, or just go to your favorite bookstore. Okay, final thoughts. I'm like mind blown. I'm going to probably rewatch this a couple times as well. Leslie, final thought of inspiration to share?
Be yourself. Be wonderful. Be magical, because you can.
Love it.
You're telling
Tanya?
me, right, Leslie?
I'm telling you, girl. I am telling you. And laugh until your head rolls back and your ribs hurt.
Final thought, Tanya?
I think, probably like, oh, why did I make a fool of myself again? That would be the thoughts. But I am gonna change it. Like it's brave. Like it's vulnerability. Like when I Brown's like talking about vulnerability. So I think showing your vulnerability, we taught to be that's the weak sign, and then humiliating, but actually that's being human being. So I really hope that we could be human being, and it is okay. So be still.
Wonderful. Okay, I wrote in the notes, show your vulnerability. It's called being human.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, take us home.
Life is an adventure, and we get to decide what path we take on that. And I'll tell you that a lot of times folks think, oh, I'm too old to do that thing, whatever that thing that I've always wanted to do, or you think life's passed you by. But I'm going to leave you with kind of a sobering thought. Today, right now, this exact moment is the youngest you will ever be for the rest of your life. So what are you waiting for? Get out there, make it happen, do the thing, and have fun.
That is so good.
I am paraphrasing all except for the sobering part. Life's an adventure. We get to choose our path, which I love, because my book is all about the road trip of life. What are you waiting for to make it happen? And I think, I have to thank you all so much for sharing your hearts and your time. And those, whether you're watching live or the replay, we so appreciate you joining us today. And I will, when I send the recap to you all in the group, I'll put all of your emails together so you can connect that way as well.
Yes.
And I don't speechless much, but this has just been so empowering and wonderful. So thank you all so much for joining today's Gold Chat Live. Please join me Sunday and every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Twitter for Gold Chat. And I will be back next Monday and every Monday at 4 p.m. with another Gold Chat Live with amazing guests. So thanks so much. Everybody, tell your story. You can do it. Just go out there and go for it.
Oh, and then the National Poetry Month. So try to write one poem at least. Thank you.
Okay, bonus goal, write a poem.
We have homework, ladies. Homework. We've got to go write a poem.
Your bonus homework on top of all the other storytelling activities. Write a poem. Leslie's got her pen. She's ready to go. Thank you all so much, everybody. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourself and go be you and have fun. Go for it.